ability with SharePoint 2010 workflows.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to bring these slides up and get this started.
It seems like the more they do to SharePoint and Office 365, the more I lose out on some of the features I loved.
Yeah, it is an ever evolving game here.
Yep.
Shadeed, is it okay if I post the Zoom link in the duplicate meeting for tonight? There's someone in there that can't sign up for this meeting and see your Zoom link because it's already started.
Please, please, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. The joys of Meetup. Once it starts, okay. Okay, welcome to the July version of the Baltimore SharePoint Users Group. Fun fact, many years ago, I'll go into the fun fact a little later, but this is the July meetup. When we talk about what is Baltimore SharePoint Users Group, the history, the ambiance, it's taken on an interesting path, and at this point, as far as SharePoint is concerned, Maryland's longest running community institution. And the fun fact is that Baltimore SharePoint started in July. So both the co-founder and I both, he was late June and my birthday is in July. And right around that time, we launched our first meeting on the third Thursday of July, way back in 2007. When we talk about the people who have passed through the halls of Baltimore SharePoint and start to look at the numbers, it's a who's who list of professional speakers, authors, consultants, experts, beginners, and so on and so forth. And as far as practices are concerned, one of the biggest areas of pride in terms of Baltimore SharePoint is when we have a practice that starts from members in the group. Maybe the founder was a consultant, maybe the founder was working at a company and they either were laid off or paired up with a few people and launched a company, and for them to come back and attend meetings and ultimately gain and build a team and then grow to the point where they're able to sponsor a SharePoint Saturday event. That's the ultimate full circle moment. And that's happened several times, and it's always great to see. Special thanks to our friends at ProObject. ProObject in 2018 was ranked as one of the top 100 firms to work at in the state of Maryland. And special thanks to Ted Staley, who essentially helps the show run when it comes to our in-person meetings. Of course, due to current events, we are meeting remote, but special thanks to Ted. And when we get to the point where we are meeting in person, Ted plays a huge part in making sure that our meetings, which happen in the evening, run smoothly. So if you have any questions on let's say, positions and opportunities that they have, which is going to be one of the topics of tonight, which is making sure our members have opportunities lined up in front of them. Then Ted Staley is a key point of contact, and he represents ProObject. Now, as mentioned in previous meetings, the thought process of how we handle things during stay-at-home period, during the virtual period, where for so many years, the group's been around since 2007 and has primarily operated as an in-person meetup group with conferences alongside of it each year. How does that transition to virtual? Does it make sense to continue to host it? When the stay-at-home procedures first started to kick off and social distancing started to kick off, we were presented with the option to have a small group of people meet in person and stream the meetings live. But one thing that we started to do actually two or 3 years ago was to stream each of our meetings. We give the speaker the opportunity to share it out. But the purpose of this, sometimes when you have an in-person group and there is an option to attend from home, it kills or diminishes the feeling of being in person. So that was a key consideration with this. But so far, we've had some great meetings with quite a few people over these past few months. Fabian's session comes to mind in terms of excellent session that took place recently, but we're looking to do more. So we are hosting the meetings each month. It varies. If someone wants to bring in a topic that is COVID-19 related, it is welcome. But for the most part, this group has come to mean many things to many people. And at the root of things, making sure that we provide an environment for people to learn and ask their questions is also important. So the BSPUG golden rule when it comes to times like this. Now, let's say a user group I first started with had a different approach when it came to promotions or sponsorships, where my thought has always been, or the guiding philosophy of Baltimore SPUG is that everyone's coming from somewhere, whether it's work, whether it's unemployment and looking for jobs all day, or let's say they came from 5 different meetings to land new clients as a business owner. Everyone's traveling from somewhere to participate in the meetings. And as a result, it's understood that you're traveling and it's been a long day. So we've always wanted to keep the focus on learning and not the feeling of being pitched to for the entire meeting. So, but the golden rule still applies that each member of Baltimore SharePoint is basically giving their time or going the extra mile to learn and put themselves at the head of the pack. And so no member should go, let's say, unemployed for months and months without some sort of action that we can take. One thing is for certain, is just because we don't have recruiters pitch at each and every meeting does not mean they do not exist, and does not mean that they have stopped wanting to hire you. So if you do run into a scenario where you are uncertain, then please send your resume to the email address on the screen. That is hello@mrshadeed.com. The reason why this particular session has been put together in terms of consulting while COVID or consulting under COVID is due to the fact that so many people have reached out and said, well, my contract is ending, this is happening, there's some uncertainty. And so we need to take the offensive and make sure that we keep our members going, keep them afloat. And also, if you have a resume and you need to make a move and you're unsure, you don't know exactly what needs to go in it, you can send an email through the same address, hello@mrshadeed.com. Fun fact, I personally had the worst military to civilian transition probably in the history of military to civilian transitions. And I said to myself, no one else should go through this again. So I used one of my hidden talents, which was writing performance reviews for E6, E7s, and E8s. So it was the golden child as an enlisted service member, and launched a resume writing company many years ago. So this is free for all Baltimore SharePoint members, just to make sure you have a qualified, let's say, perspective. Free for all members of Baltimore SharePoint through December 21st, 2020. Now, in terms of those of you who are looking to freelance, who are looking to get themselves from, let's say, 1099 work to running a full-time practice, those of you who are receiving notifications at this meeting this upcoming Friday at your job, that the contract is ending, funding is being cut short, your position is no longer needed, then your next step is to go to this free resource known as SCORE. SCORE is the largest network of certified business mentors in the United States. The SCORE Center in Baltimore, of which there are 6 offices, ranging from Howard County to Harford County, is the 3rd oldest chapter in the United States. So there's many resources that are available right here in Greater Baltimore, which again is from Howard County to Harford County, which includes two centers in Baltimore City. And so greaterbaltimorescore.org is your resource to get your business plan done, your, let's say, details about taxes, basically someone to guide you along the path of running your business. And I'm going to talk about more resources that I've come across in my journey to go from consultant. I had to do my ACAP during my transition leave. Have I looked into teaching ACAP? I have not looked into teaching specifically ACAP, but I have done many presentations at transition events for Navy specifically, doing some work with Army as well. And even doing some work with recruiters. So, if it's written on paper and it's documented, I can figure it out. Been doing this for, oh my goodness, over half of my life. So definitely can help. Now, moving forward. As was mentioned by Karen, SharePoint Saturday or Office Microsoft 365 Philly is being held on July 21st, 2020. Now, as an overview, a SharePoint Saturday or SPS event Saturday is a one-day free community event that allows for essentially for skill sets ranging from beginner to expert, project managers, developers, architects, administrators to learn about Microsoft technology it was designed as a way for you to connect to your favorite authors, your favorite bloggers, your favorite experts, MVPs, so on and so forth. And it's been around since 2009. And so it has evolved due to the cloud focus of Microsoft, and many of the events are rebranding to Microsoft 365 or Cloud Saturday, so on and so forth. So we have postponed events, meaning these are events that thrive traditionally in the in-person atmosphere. And so they made the adjustment to postpone events. So New York City recently announced that they will continue to be postponed. Charlotte, August 7th is being postponed. And Lord forgive me, I lived in New England at one point and left the N out of New England. So Patriots fans across the land, forgive me. But October 3rd is also postponed. So stay tuned to spsevents.org for the notification of when these events will be brought back on the calendar. And once again, that is spsevents.org. And as you can see, you have a wide range of events that basically tells you the schedule. And so you have the view of essentially the next few months. Cincinnati is another event where many of our members tend to make the drive, and that is also on the calendar as a virtual event. And it's being held on Friday. One thing that's to keep in mind is that Microsoft 365 Philly is not a Saturday event. It will actually be held during lunch over a few days, and I'll click into the event itself to give you a little bit more insight. Of course, you can go to spsevents.org and look at this information yourself, but there's many people in the work that I do and the travels and speaking to various user groups and audiences that don't have any idea about these events. It's pretty strange to me, but I'm also biased in the fact that I've organized about 11 of them. So for some people who may only use SharePoint or only use Office 365 for work-related purposes, the idea of an event where the people who write the rules of the industry, that may be a bit odd for them. So just keep that in mind. So when we talk about the evolution of BSPUG and what we're looking to rebrand the group and just dive deeper into the impact that we have as a community, and especially from a professional development role. The fact that we've helped several people, especially during this time and other times where there's individuals who fell upon hard times, and we're able to connect them to resources and start to look at how we can make that permanent and partner with other organizations to focus on skill development, focus on partnerships with companies that provide licenses alongside the Microsoft stack, and be on the lookout of what is coming next in that regard. And we have John Severs has mentioned that Microsoft Ignite 2020 is coming in September, and it will be digital. And so Microsoft has done a great job in providing a digital experience for attendees with the build event, and of course with Ignite. That will be interesting to see how the events are done digitally. I know at the last developer conference, there were less sessions, but more keynote style sessions with various experts, and the feedback was fairly solid. So thank you for that, John. Now, fireside chats. Now, during this time, since we are virtual and we will be virtual for the foreseeable future, and I received this question a lot. You will not have to assume if we're in person or virtual. It will be clearly spelled out weeks in advance, and you'll have at least a 6-week window before we launch that we are meeting in person. And so just keep that in mind. So the question is, how do we introduce variety to our monthly meetings? And so the fireside chat is one idea that has already kicked off, and fireside chat is essentially a discussion, of course, about technology, but is more so about the idea of going into some of the additional elements, hobbies, so on and so forth of the speaker, and using the campfire analogy. So last month was the first fireside chat featuring Fred Brandon, and his topic was on Microsoft and blockchain. So he went into what the blockchain is and how an architect, how a developer, how an administrator can get started with building solutions that leverage blockchain technology. And I went into Azure, he went into SharePoint, he went into Office 365, and very informative session. But the whole value for the speaker is you don't have to prepare a bunch of slides, you don't have to prepare a demo. It's more of an open discussion around a topic that can go in the direction that the audience wants it to go. So the first one was good, and I'm looking to bring in other speakers and MVPs to try this fireside chat approach and see where it goes. But your feedback with that will be valuable as well. And I always say that if you want to deliver a session, whether it's a break fix, how to, and you want to deliver that to the group, doesn't have to be 75 minutes. It can be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes. And you can always just send me an email or contact me on social media, and I'll be happy to find a slot for you. Otherwise, I will practice my public speaking each and every month. So you choose your own adventure on that. But I will say that for many people, especially since starting this group in 2007 and being on the board for SPUG DC before that, when people are new speakers, a funny thing happens. They catch what you call the speaker's bug. So before the event, they completely overthink what can go wrong with the session. And then they finally make it to the session, they deliver it, they're nervous, but they still deliver. Afterwards, they say, well, this is what I could have did better. And that's where you find the next event in order to try to do it better. And so then you see that individual speaking at other user groups, and then you run into them at SharePoint Saturday events, they become an MVP, and the rest is history. So public speaking as a senior professional is one of the most valuable skill sets that you can have. The difference between a junior level, mid-level, and senior level is not skills. It's actually the ability to create or communicate those skills to executives and various islands of team members within an organization or your clients. So public speaking allows you to raise your profile. If you're a senior professional or MVP, public speaking is one of the criteria that helps you become an MVP. And so there's many benefits to it personally and professionally. So I encourage you to try one session within the next year. One session can be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And so that is my soapbox on that. Now, going into today's topic, which is consulting in COVID and some of the do's and don'ts related to that. What I want you to realize is one thing. I live by the motto, the statement, the phrase that you never know what's going to happen 6 months from now. Never know what's going to happen. So when you think about that and you think about where you may be, and we are in a time where there's more uncertainty being presented than at any other point in professional history. Now, as a professional, I've lived through 9/11. As a professional, I have lived through the situation in 2008. And I've also been a professional during COVID-19. And so when we look at those factors, if you don't believe that COVID-19 is real, because there's some of you out there who, hey, why are we wearing masks, or this is foolish. Your boss doesn't feel that way. Your boss is losing money by the boatload. And many companies don't know how they're going to stay afloat. So that's one thing that just because you don't think it's raining doesn't mean you don't need an umbrella. So this is what this particular topic is all about, understanding how to navigate these particular waters. So when we think about the scenarios that you may be facing during this time, so you fall into a few categories here. Either you are waiting to, or you're reporting on site for W-2 employment. Maybe you are a W-2 or 1099 who is currently working off-site, working remote under the stay-at-home order. Maybe you are a part of an essential business who is working off-site during this time. Maybe you are you're a resource who is looking for a new opportunity, meaning you're part of a non-essential business. You're a senior resource who's part of a non-essential business that was shut down during this time, and they may have told you that you are, your services are not needed during this time, you're laid off, and when things get better, we will call for you and bring you back in. So you may fall under these following categories. And in many cases, what we're finding is that, let's say if you're within the first groups, if you're reporting to on-site W-2 employment, or you're working off-site, that may change in the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, as I'm receiving reports from long-time contracts, friends of mine, friends of yours that you may know that are basically in a position where they are out of work, or they're looking to find new opportunity. So I have this time, I'm off site. How do I find some additional contracts? How do I find a company that I can work with and ultimately move on, maybe have them part-time? There's a few people I know who have taken on multiple remote roles while they're at home and basically earning 2 or 3 salaries simultaneously. So, so they say. So these are all scenarios that exist. So no matter where you may be, that reality may completely change within the next 6 months. And I want to examine that. I want you to examine that as we continue through these slides. So when we look at scenarios, we have agencies losing funding. So everywhere from CMS, SSA, NSA, that dominate around our beltway. Are essentially, there's certain projects that are losing funding at this time. And so we have to keep in mind what that means and what that entails. Okay, so I'm stopping for a second, make sure everyone's in. Yes, and John mentions birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, John. But also last day at current job, which that's important to know. So agencies losing funding. For those of you who are possibly collecting unemployment and looking for jobs actively. So at this point, as of today, Maryland has a $500 million unemployment scam going on in Greater Maryland. So you can expect, and this news just was released yesterday, so you can expect there to be some sort of freeze or conundrum when it comes to unemployment. And so many people honestly have opted with the additional income that unemployment is offered. Many people are earning more on unemployment, or it's competitive than to what they were earning driving into the office. So when you run the numbers in some cases, people are asking themselves more so than ever, because unemployment was designed to be temporary, but they say, well, if I'm earning a certain amount staying home and I'm not driving, I'm not commuting, I can stay home and try to make some opportunities happen for myself and then try to find something to transition to. But what we're finding is that when consultants or W-2 employees, full-time employees are applying to positions, the hiring window, because certain people are, let's say, not able to get hired right away. Some is the communication between some people who are working on site versus working remote leads to a longer lead time for hiring windows. It's a bit more difficult to get everyone on virtual interviews and virtual calls and screenings. So that's what we're finding in some cases. So dealing with that is the key. Hiring freeze, meaning you were in the pipeline to be hired. You completed your interview. And now the agency is going through a hiring freeze. So we're not accepting any new candidates until October 1st. We're not accepting new candidates at all. And so you spent all this time applying and going through the motions of maybe rejecting certain offers or rejecting certain opportunities that came your way. Maybe you had 2 or 3 companies that were interested in you, and you thought you had a sure candidate, and that company has said that there's a hiring freeze. So the question is, what do you do about these things? And this has happened at quite a few agencies with government employees, salary cuts. So you were on the role and you've been on this particular position for several years, and now the call to action is you have to basically take a pay cut for a specific amount of time because you're working from home, and salary cuts have happened at quite a few organizations. So these are all aspects that you have to keep in mind. So which scenario do you fall into, and what is your plan to start to work your way out of this or work your way around it? So let's look into some resources that you have at your disposal. Number one was one that I mentioned in the very beginnings. These are all free resources, and all are based in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And so SCORE, as I mentioned, has offices from Howard County to Harford County, and that will assign you a business mentor. The Small Business Development Center is based in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Howard County. And they have free videos, free virtual workshops, and also mentors. So you can go to the link within the slide and start to look at meeting with the resource or going to their events calendar and booking a session to begin to help yourself develop some ideas to stay afloat. And you also have the Small Business Administration. Now, SBA is the governing body of small business within the United States of America. And so they regulate all small business, and they have a center right downtown on Charles Street. And so the SBA provides funding through loans and also training as well. They have a training calendar for small businesses, consultants, freelancers, so on and so forth. Now, another resource that I want to mention, because some of you are looking to answer the question. So sometimes, like let's say when we were younger and you needed to get ID, but you didn't necessarily, you had to have ID to get an ID. And that's always the age-old riddle. How do I get ID? How do I get ID if I need an ID? So, so the question is, if you want to work in a specific field in the Microsoft industry, whether it's administrator, if you want to transition into development work, how do I get a paying opportunity if I don't have any references or credibility? The answer is Volunteer Match. What Volunteer Match is a search engine of nonprofit organizations. And let's see here. Volunteermatch.org, one of my favorite websites on the planet. And so if you're just getting started and you're looking to break into opportunities, then this is a search engine of nonprofit companies that will allow you to basically get your work with them. These are, let's say, relevant nonprofits who post particular jobs, and basically what you do is you work with these companies, they give you a reference or recommendation, and you use that to land paying work. If you're out of work, this is one place where you should spend the majority of your time. As you can see, you have on location and you have virtual. So you have the opportunity to work virtual with this site. So these are all opportunities that are here from real companies. They do not pay you. They do not pay you because it's volunteer match, not freelance match. So this site will allow you to get started, and there's a few things that happen. If you're great at what you do, there may be a full-time opportunity that comes up within the company where it'll allow you to land a paying job, but you can also use a letter of recommendation from the founder of the company to apply to that opportunity. So that's what I want you to keep in mind when it comes to volunteermatch.org. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat. So when we talk about some of the finer details of consulting and or freelancing, what services can be offered? How do you price your services, and do you need to make COVID adjustments? Tend to be some questions that come up. As always, each role will depend. I will say that the first place you can look is in communicating with local recruiters, or if you have any specific questions, you can always email me directly if you say, I want to start my business and I need help with pricing my services. The budget of the company will always come into play. So some cases, budgets are going to be shorter, and other cases, companies are cutting back on salaries, and that you don't have to drive into the office anymore, so we don't need to pay you your full rate. So those are going to be ongoing discussions. But I can tell you in terms of what companies are looking for is, as things have slowed down, they're now taking a look at their digital or hardware or infrastructure. And so platform evaluations, where you evaluate the architecture, that is a popular service. Let's say code review, where you go in as a developer and review code base, maybe add some comments, clean up the code a bit, and help for existing applications to run smoothly. I would say on a human resources side, making sure certain policies are written for companies to open back up. Definitely tools on, if you're a Teams expert, for example, how to help companies host better meetings and putting together standard operating procedures for that. In some cases, managing events. These are all areas that will work just fine. Project management is very important, because with the projects that exist, there's a less margin of error for each company. So you have to have someone who understands how to run a project the right way. So these are all things to keep in mind. And so those are my thoughts on consulting as a whole. Are there any questions regarding consulting at all, and where your situation may be? You can unmute yourself and ask away. And I'm also doing a check of social media. Thank you for Baltimore-based jobs, all 70,000 of you. Thank you. Thank you to the Winner's Circle for tuning in, BPM for tuning in, Periscope for tuning in. So if there are no further questions, make sure if you have, yes.
How many different places you're broadcasting to right now?
A lot, a lot, a whole lot, probably 8.
Not just Zoom. You're broadcasting over Periscope and others all at the same time.
About 8, yes.
Wow. Okay, I would have thought that would have created extra lag on you, but I guess that hasn't. Cool.
All right. Well, in some ways it does with, let's say, if you ever get this crazy idea with the slides, it does create a lag with slides and certain videos. So you really have to know where those are and just talk through them. I do a lot of talking through issues a lot. So that is one thing, is a subtle trick. So, okay. So on behalf of BSPUG Nation, tune in next month, 3rd Thursday of August. Looking to bring SharePoint Saturday back in September, 3rd Saturday of September. I'll be on the lookout for that, and we'll take things from there. Thank you very much for your time, and we're going to keep this BSPUG engine going through these COVID times. But as for now, this is another meeting, and again, this meeting did not come from let's say something I said, oh, I feel like talking about this. I have about 7 resumes that I have to send around and help people that I've known for 10+ years who have supported this group to keep those lights on and keep things afloat. So I'm wheeling and dealing around the Beltway. And so if something's going on with your contract, please reach out and let's keep you working.
I got someone who asked me the other day about migrating GCC low to GCC high. If you got somebody, send me his name.
Okay. Perfect. There you go. The always connected Scott Brewster. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Take care of yourself. It is time for dinner.
Thank you.
You're welcome.